What does it mean, the dark night of the soul? Is it just a one and you're done thing? You have an experience like Jesus did? That's a dark night of the soul. That was a long 24 hours. Yeah, that's heavy. So is that what we have to look forward to? do we all need to experience that level of physical suffering? No. It can be like that, or it can be spread out. It's said that Jesus, I don't even want to get into it, actually. But it can be that we can concentrate. I touched on this on my Law of Karma video. It can be that our higher self, before we incarnate here, it's like we can't remember this. It would mess the game up. We kind of pull the files out of the drawer and determine like which experiences we're going to have and what our desires are and the lessons we want to learn, all that stuff. So sometimes our higher self, consciousness, it may choose to really concentrate a bunch of karma or a bunch of lessons into one really powerful experience. So that that could be the case, like with certain people, masters, not just masters. There's all kinds of people that have experienced horrible suffering, torture, and it's like, whoa. But when they die, when the body dies, they're free. They're super free. They're not tripping on the torture anymore. I remember in the book of Yogananda, his astral spirit or body went into, this is during the World War II, I think. It went into this captain who got shot on the battlefield. And so it's like Yogananda's consciousness went into that. But so then he felt he was the captain that was like dying or dead. And then the consciousness got transferred back into Yogananda's body. And then again it went back into the captain. And then Yogananda was talking with Spirit or God. He says, am I dead or alive? And Spirit says, what difference does it make, basically? So, but when we're in that moment of suffering or burning this karma, it can damn sure feel like this thing's real. So I don't wish those experiences on the non-dual oaks, but I can promise you if it did happen and you film them, they're not going to be telling you everything's apparent. So it can either be really concentrated like that, a real concentrated experience, or it can be spread out. Your dark night of the soul could be spread out. It could be spread out either over years or decades or lifetimes. We don't know. There's a higher intelligence that's determining all that. Now, why am I talking about this, though? Does this instill fear? No. You have to know you're taken care of no matter what happens. You're going to be good. Can you feel when you contemplate this how it can dissolve ego and mind? I felt it when I was just saying it. It helps this surrender. You just give everything up. You're like, because it's a big false sense of security that most people are living with on this planet. We think everything's going to be good. Like, I'm sitting here, it's peaceful, everything's good. I'm going to go in the ocean when I'm done making this video. I don't know, though. Maybe I'm going to have a heart attack. Maybe a wild animal is going to jump out and bite me. Maybe all of a sudden a bomb's going to hit and we're done. Like, we don't know. There's a million things that could happen that could disturb this groove that we're in this belief system that everything's okay. Anytime any tragedy has happened, most of the time, they don't know it's going to happen. You think the people, when America dropped that bomb on Hiroshima, you think all those innocent people were expecting that? You know how close we came to going to war with Russia or the Cuban Missile Crisis with Cuba? We don't know what's going to happen. The virus, look at that. This whole COVID thing, like, we didn't know. So we don't know. We don't know what's next. Are we going to see some crazy stuff coming before we die? We don't know. You got the you got the people that are obsessed with that. They think they know everything that's going to happen. They want you to ride that bus with them. You just give everything up, and you know you're going to be taken care of. Look and reflect back on your life so far. I'm sure you had some really hard times. Can you even remember them? I mean, unless they're fresh. You weren't even thinking about them. And there were hellish times until I said, have you ever look back in your own life and see what were your hard times? Then the mind could use imagination. Unless you had Alzheimer's, they can't remember. They're not suffering. So God's always there taking care. That's the point. That's the message. Even in the dark night of the soul, God's going to take care. If you know that now, and yeah, there might be, don't be scared of some pain and suffering. You've already felt it. Look back in your life. You've already felt pain and suffering. You made it through it. Not only did you make it through it, you don't even remember it unless somebody asks you to remember it. You're good. You got to have this faith and trust. This human ship isn't your ship. There's a higher level captain that's navigating this ship. Trust that. There's no such thing as eternal hell or suffering. Man, that religion really, certain aspects of it can really make a kid depressed, let me tell you. I remember I mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. I don't know how old I was, 6 or 7, and we were in Bible study. I liked Bible study class only because I liked the cookie and milk that I would get. But I remember the guy that was giving the sermon, he's talking to like elementary kids saying like, yeah, hell is when you're in this pit of fire and it's so hot that your teeth chatter and you stay there forever. So you better accept Jesus Christ. This is what he's saying. Like he's talking to kids, man. That messed me up for a few years. But then God sent me somebody, a mentor who straightened all that out for me, you know. So it's not like that. It's not like that. There's no permanent hell and there's no permanent heaven either. Those are still states happening inside the consciousness that we are. Yeah, but you know, I don't want to get into that so much because it can become too heady, too mental, you know. Well, then how do you recognize the consciousness? You're saying even the most subtle states are happening inside the consciousness that you are, and that's the only thing that never changes. Well, how do you recognize that? Yeah, the one that's trying to recognize that can't recognize that. That is just always there. Grace, evolution will take care of all that. Something will just become more something, I don't know what. Something will become more aware of this, you can say, non-dual nature or the space in which non-dual nature is happening in. It's like maybe it's becoming aware of its own self, but it can't do that unless it has this some kind of form with the play of duality. That's like the way that the pure absolute can recognize its own self. And all the pain and all the happiness and all that stuff is all compost to help accelerate and produce and evolve this realization, which is the whole point in life. That's the realization. This is the main point in life, to have this realization of, you can say, our true nature. Not just our true nature, the true nature of existence. Is that true nature of existence wants to recognize itself. Yeah. All right? Let me know. Let me know if you like that video. Don't be scared of the dark night of the soul. It's all good. Because you got to have the dark night of the soul to have the light day of the soul, right? If you didn't taste what the dark night of the soul is, then how can you appreciate the light day of the soul? Why isn't that a video or a phrase? The light day of the soul. Those feel better, don't they? But you wouldn't, sometimes the people that have went through the worst pain are the happiest because they appreciate it. They appreciate the happiness. It's like, I'll end with this. The real definition, dark night of the soul, is when the consciousness starts to become aware of itself. It feels the joy, the contentment and peace that emanates from that, and then it loses it temporarily. It creates that contrast, so that feels very dark. You're like, whoa, I've like been abandoned. Like, what happened? Jesus said it. Father, why have you forsaken me? The consciousness forgot that it's conscious. But then it came back. He's like, okay, I'm out of this show now. Okay, God, I command my spirit into your arm, and he's done. He's like, this is enough. All right, have a good day.